The Vanishing Hitchhiker. It was a moonless night, and Michael was driving alone on a desolate stretch of highway that cut through a dense forest. The only light came from his car's headlights, casting eerie shadows on the trees. He had heard the local legends of a vanishing hitchhiker who haunted this road. As he rounded a bend, he saw a young woman standing on the side of the road, her thumb out, hitchhiking. Against his better judgment, he stopped and let her in. She was shivering, and her clothes were drenched. She gave him an address, and he began to drive her there. Throughout the journey, she remained silent, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. Unease settled in Michael's gut as he noticed her pale complexion and the icy coldness of her touch. When they reached the address, she simply pointed to a cemetery. Michael turned to her, horrified, but she had vanished from the back seat. Panicked, he got out of the car and found an old tombstone with the same name and date of death as the woman he had just picked up. He had given a ride to a ghostly hitchhiker who could never escape the road that claimed her life. As Michael stood there, a chilling wind swept through the cemetery, extinguishing the car's headlights. In the darkness, he heard faint whispers, the voices of other lost souls who had encountered the same spectral hitchhiker. With a pounding heart, he fumbled for his car keys and sped away, leaving the haunted cemetery behind. But the memory of that eerie night would haunt him for the rest of his days. The Phantom Truck. It was a beautiful summer evening, and Emily was on a long journey. In the middle of the road, as she crossed a long two-lane highway, her eyes were suddenly drawn to distant pale headlights. A truck was driving, matching her speed. Emily noticed the truck's unsettling proximity and saw it frequently honking its horn and flashing its headlights. Anxious, she increased her speed, but the truck still matched her pace, always dangerously close. In a desperate attempt to escape, Emily took an exit and entered an abandoned journey. The truck followed. As Emily's car sped down the desolated road, she noticed peculiar symbols etched into the truck's rusty bumper. Suddenly, the truck swerved violently and crashed into the desert sand, bursting into flames. Emily pulled over in trembling panic and called 911. When the authorities arrived, they found no trace of the truck's driver. All that remained were the mysterious symbols on the bumper. Emily never learned the origin of the Phantom Truck, but the memory of its relentless pursuit haunted her for the rest of her life. Years later, while researching the symbols on the bumper, Emily stumbled upon an old newspaper article. It recounted the story of a tragic accident involving a family in that very truck, a family that had perished in a fiery crash on that same desert road decades ago. The Phantom Truck had been a restless spirit, seeking a way to make amends for the terrible accident that had taken their lives. The Haunted Shortcut. It was nearing midnight, and Linda decided to take a shortcut through the woods to reach her friend's house. She had heard the stories about the haunted woods, but she dismissed them as mere superstition. As she drove deeper into the darkness, the trees closed in around her, their branches scratching at her car. Suddenly, Linda's car stalled, leaving her stranded in the pitch-black forest. Panic welled up as she tried to restart the engine to no avail. That's when she heard it, the faint sound of a child crying in the distance. Fear gripped her as she followed the haunting cries through the woods. Eventually, she stumbled upon an old, decrepit cabin. Inside, the cries grew louder, echoing off the walls. The cabin was filled with eerie antique dolls, their lifeless eyes seeming to follow her every move. As Linda searched for the source of the cries, she felt an icy hand on her shoulder. She turned to see a ghostly child, pale and covered in dirt. The child pointed to the dolls, then vanished into thin air. Terrified, Linda ran from the cabin and back to her car. Miraculously, her car started, and she sped away from the cursed shortcut. But as she drove, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed her. When she arrived at her friend's house, she noticed a small antique doll sitting on the passenger seat, its eyes now fixated on her. She threw the doll out of the car, but it mysteriously reappeared inside every time she glanced away. The haunted haunting continued, with the doll appearing at unexpected times and places. Linda was unable to escape its malevolent presence, and she soon realized that the spirit of the child had latched onto her. The once innocent doll had become a conduit for the vengeful spirit, and no matter where she went, it would always find its way back to her, a never-ending reminder of the nightmarish encounter in the cabin. The Abandoned Asylum. On a chilling October night, Mark found himself on a remote road, navigating through thick fog that obscured his vision. His car's headlights cut through the mist, like two feeble beams in the darkness. The only sound was the rhythmic thumping of raindrops on his roof. Mark had heard stories of a long-abandoned asylum, hidden deep within these woods. The tales were grim, filled with accounts of tormented souls and unspeakable horrors. He had always considered them nothing more than ghost stories told around campfires, but now he couldn't help but feel a shiver run down his spine. As he continued down the desolate road, Mark spotted an old woman standing at the side, drenched in rain. She raised a frail hand, signaling for help. Torn between his instincts, he decided to stop and offer assistance. The woman climbed into the back seat, her tattered clothes dripping water onto his upholstery. With a trembling voice, she gave an address, which Mark noted as he set off once again. The woman remained silent, her gaze fixated on the forest beyond the foggy windows. Her pale, wrinkled skin seemed to absorb what little light was available, giving her an eerie appearance. After a while, Mark noticed they were approaching an area he recognized from the stories, the vicinity of the abandoned asylum. A chill swept over him as he turned to the woman to confirm the address she had given. To his horror, she had vanished from the backseat, leaving behind only the lingering scent of damp earth and decay. Panicked, Mark pulled over and got out of the car, scanning the foggy surroundings. A crumbling sign emerged from the mist, revealing the truth. The asylum's address was the same one the mysterious woman had given. He had unwittingly given a ride to a ghost, a tormented soul forever tethered to the forsaken asylum. Mark's heart raced as he stared at the looming structure in the distance, its broken windows and decaying facade speaking of a dark and troubled history. The fog thickened, and eerie whispers filled the air, recounting the tales of the lost and the suffering. Overwhelmed by fear, Mark jumped back into his car and sped away from the dreaded place, vowing never to return. But the memory of that fateful night would stay with him, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying stories were the ones you inadvertently became a part of. The abandoned asylum and the ghostly hitchhiker would forever haunt his nightmares, ensuring he would never look at foggy nights the same way again.